ニコさん笑ってる。
ニコ、どうしたんだニコ。こんなのお前らしくない。
どっちも私だ。
Hi there everyone, Lars back with another review and analysis for Dealing with the Mikadono Sisters is a Breeze, brought to you by Camille's Harem, a channel for novice authors by novice authors, and because writing is an adventure, is more fun with friends. And these last two episodes that we've gotten have focused primarily on some serious character development for Nico. And as someone who's read the manga, I just gotta say this, you need to appreciate every single chance that you get where Nico goes through some serious character development, because unfortunately the mangaka doesn't do as much with Nico as they do with Kazuki or Miwa. So these two episodes especially are really a treat if you enjoy Nico's character. And what I find to be potentially the most valuable writing lesson out of these two episodes, I'll just say this on at the onset of this review and analysis, is that what we see with Nico's character, with her going up against Hayato in order to remain at the school and with her family and of course with you, we get a perfect example of positive affirmation. And I think that that is something that honestly more new authors need to focus on, rather than just simply talking up their character as, oh, you're so great, or just showing that character so great without providing the affirmation. We always talk about the show don't tell aspect of storytelling, but there are times where you do need to back up what you show with what you tell. So let's dive into it. In the latest two episodes, Nico is confronted with a pretty big choice before her. Her old friend and senpai at the karate dojo, Hayato, has come on over to engage with her karate club, have some friendly sparring, which really isn't all too friendly because he intends to take her back to his school. Why is that? Well, he has got a massive crush on her, and he's already talked to her father and is like, I will whisk her away. I will make her the greatest female athlete in Japan, and then you will get me as your son-in-law. It's perfect. And Mr. Mikadono's like, yes, it is perfect, because, of course, I am building up the perfect pedigree of prodigies. Of course. But for Nico, this really isn't something that she wants, because this is going to take her away from her friends in the karate club. It's going to take her away from her sisters with whom she has just reconnected, and it's going to take her away from the first guy that she's had any real romantic feelings for, you. But of course, Nico does want to be the best when it comes to karate. Just like with Kazuki, it's not that she doesn't like what she's doing, but the way that her father has forced her into it hasn't been the most positive. That being said, again, she does love karate. She does want to be the best. On top of that, she does have a good relationship with Hayato. And so, well, why not choose this? It'll make her father really happy as well. She doesn't want to go against him. This puts her into a very precarious bind. What is she supposed to do? And although Miwa and Kazuki do their part, they try their best to make her feel better, make her feel more loved and involved at home, it still is something that Nico has to choose for herself. Well, Yu comes in and decides to throw down the gauntlet before Hayato's like, ha! I challenge you to a duel, a karate duel for Nico. At first, the stipulation is it will just be between them, and that Hayato is not allowed to use his best leg against Yu, because Hayato is just an absolute beast. Yu knows this. Yu knows that he barely stands a chance, so he wants a handicap, which Hayato's like, fine, I'll give it to you because I'm going to crush you. But Yu does change up the arrangements of their duel, asking for Nico to be included as well. And if Hayato loses just one match, then Nico gets to choose to stay, regardless of what Hayato and her father have already determined for her. Well, Nico is, again, still not exactly sure if this is really what she wants to do, but she likes you. She is going to do her best to turn him into a fighting machine, which doesn't work really well. He just gets laid out in his match against Hayato. However, there is something that he did do that you haven't seen yet in this episode. It's going to come into play for a really funny reveal in the next one, so I'm not going to spoil it right here, but let's just say that Yu isn't as useless as he often appears to be and as everyone says. And not just for what secretive thing he actually did that hasn't yet been shown in the series, but because he is there to support Nico and reaffirm that Nico can be both strong and feminine. That, hey, Nico, I don't see that you can't be beautiful and be a fierce fighter at the same time. I see both in you. You can be both, and you can choose who you want to be. So Nico goes against Hayato, and Hayato's just like, this isn't becoming of you, Nico. This is so beneath you, and speaks down to her. The fighting spirit within her comes raging on up like a beast, and she just unleashes everything that she has in her arsenal on Hayato, completely switching up her style, which goes from elegant and sharp and just full of punch and vigor to acrobatic, flowing, flighty, and fierce. And Hayato's caught so completely off guard that he is unable to do anything against her. And I am going to stress unable. He is unable to defeat her with his current predicament, which again, that will be revealed in the next episode. So Nico wins, thereby, according to the agreement between you and Hayato, this means that Nico can choose if she wishes to stay. And because she has proven that she can beat the premier karate fighter of Japan, well, this must mean that she is indeed truly strong, and that staying at Saika and with her family and with you will not hold her back. So that is where we are at this point in the series. And to cycle back to what I said at the beginning of my review right here, that this is a great example of positive affirmation. This is something that writers really need to take into account. This is something that, unfortunately, you don't see a whole lot of, especially with more recent YA and young adult productions, especially coming out of Hollywood, where there's a lot of grandstanding and posturing of like, oh, you're the best, you're absolutely the best, you never needed to change, you were always great from within. Which, you know what, honestly, that's not always a bad message, where it's like, hey, you were always great to begin with. You just need the opportunity to prove that to yourself and to everyone else. It's not a bad way to go, but there has to still be that proving, which most stories then go where the protagonist, especially usually the female protagonist, then just steamrolls the competition, and there is absolutely no real effort or sweat on her part. With Nico, that's not really the case. We saw previously that Nico can and indeed was beaten by Hayato rather handedly, that her confidence was shattered, and if she were to go at Hayato in her usual form with her usual moves, she would be obliterated. It's thanks to you giving her that positive affirmation and helping her to see things differently that she's able to change up her style and catch Hayato completely off guard. There is also a little bit more to the story, which once again I cannot quite reveal because I think that will be a fun spoiler for the next episode. But in any case, Nico earns that positive affirmation. Yu tells her what she needs. He's very positive about it, very supporting, but Nico still has to go through all the work. This is realistic. This is positive. This is healthy. If you are going to have affirmation within your storytelling, which I do highly encourage that you do, it needs to be backed up then with the showing of how the character rises to the praise and support of the people that love him or her. When you combine that positive affirmation with a character's hard work, it makes the journey feel way more positive and honestly feel very earned at the end, whether or not they succeed. I mean, let's just quickly hop on over to Pokemon. How many times have people said, "Go Ash, you can do it," then Ash gets beaten? And while that might be really frustrating from the shonen model of storytelling, that's honestly really good because sometimes your protagonists do need to get defeated in order to keep them humble and give them opportunities to continue learning and growing. In this case with Niko, we've already established that she is one of the best karate martial artists in Japan. We've had so many episodes of the reporting of that, and we've seen her win trophies and so on and so forth, and now we get to see her get beaten and pushed to a low point. And we've got 2 episodes of really dealing with the conflict that she has presented to her, not just in terms of fighting strength and skill, but also what does she want? It's a very personal, metaphysical journey that Niko has to go on, as well as continuing to build a relationship that she wants with her sisters and with you. There's so much more that goes into this rather than just fighting and I have to win. Niko is going on a journey to discover herself, and you gave her permission to be herself. And by the end of this episode, we get to see who the real Niko is. A beautiful girl with a really mean right kick and left hook. So my final bit of writing advice based on these latest episodes is this: have your characters struggle. Make them earn their victories, but at the same time, don't put them down along their journey, but give them opportunities to be praised and to be supported in a very positive way. Positive affirmation, not toxic. There's too much toxic affirmation where it's like, oh, you're so great, and then these characters don't have to go through anything to show that they were always so great. Nah. That's not good, that's not relatable, and that's incredibly shallow. If you do want to have characters, for instance, like Hayato, speak down to your characters, that's also really good. Have that contrast. Make them doubt, like, am I really good enough? Can I really do it? When characters overcome not just physical weaknesses, but also those mental obstacles of doubt, that also, again, feels very relatable to the audience and makes them engage even more with the story and with the characters, and people then want to see girls like Niko succeed. Now, to round things off, you might realize that this video is just slightly shorter than the one that I did for 2 episodes surrounding Kazuki. And that's again because I feel like if there's anything to really criticize this particular arc for, is that, well, although Niko is a very straightforward character, it seems as though it's like, well, you know what, Niko's just all about fighting and figuring out if she's can be both girly and fierce. And of course, there's also the budding relationships between her sisters and you, but as opposed to what we saw with Kazuki, where there was really a whole lot more meat to dive into, and we're going to get even more when we then transition over to Miwa. Problem is that the mangaka doesn't seem to have given quite the same amount of depth to Niko. It is there, but it's way more slower to get teased out. And on top of that, it seems like, especially when it comes to building relationships in the home, Niko kind of rides the coattails of what Miwa and Kazuki do. And so as a result, I'm just going to say it doesn't feel like Niko is getting quite as much love as she honestly deserves, and as much character progression as she could get. And this is always a difficulty in much larger casts with more main characters beyond 2 or 3, and is also an issue when you have a harem story, because you need to give all the girls as much love as you possibly can. I personally feel like dealing with the Mikadono Sisters does a better job than 95% of other harem stories, but it is still a pitfall that even a good writer can fall into if they're not careful. So that's something else to bear in mind. But with all of that being said, that's been my review, my thoughts, analysis on these latest episodes of Dealing with Mikadono Sisters is a Breeze. I'd love to hear in the comments from you what you thought of these episodes if you've watched them. If you haven't, I highly encourage that you do. And I also highly encourage that you support us by checking out the books that I've published. Links for them are in the description below. But otherwise, thank you so much for joining us on this adventure that we call writing. And until the next video, y'all, tschüss.